So good morning, everybody. My name's Mark, and I'm one of the leaders here. And I have the privilege of speaking about this wonderful subject of Ruth. I'm going to be focusing kind of just on Ruth. I mean, there are three figures, three characters in this particular story. They kind of interrelate, but my focus is going to be on Ruth. And I'm going to be trying to do a portrait of Ruth. Hence the picture there, which has been painted, was painted in the 17th century by somebody called Frans Hals, who was Dutch. And he was very, very good at painting quickly. He was a really superb, quick painter. And the writer of Ruth was also superb at writing something concise and something you get through quite quickly, but it goes deep. And that painting, I think, is a beautiful painting. It's in Hull Gallery, if you ever get there. It's a painting that of a person, and I believe that that person's character really stands out in that painting. Something of who she is, going below the surface of her features and kind of seeing something of her character within. And this is like a character study, and what we're going to be talking about today is Ruth's character. And there are certain things in that picture that I think relate to the story. One of them is that it's a young person. The other is that the character comes through. She's very front on. And that to me conveys a certain honesty, openness, and directness of her personality. Also, there's something in her face. In my version here, it almost looks as if she's about to burst into laughter. I think there's something within her, a bit of character within her. And he manages to convey this really powerfully. So it's honest, it's warm, her characters stand out. Now, in my version of the picture, the background is darker. It's not quite so much there, but that is also a feature. Somehow, something of her personality and her character gleams out because she's cast in a background that is dark. Her eyes also shine out from the darkness. And that is very much the case with Ruth. Because the story of Ruth, as Colin carefully read to us, is so full of suffering, particularly at the beginning. It's painful even to read it, but we have a story of struggle and pain even before Ruth appears on the scene. And this is kind of like a background that sets off her character qualities. And the struggle begins with a famine in Israel, God's country. So God's country where God and the people of Israel were working in some sort of partnership, but the partnership wasn't going particularly well. And the people of God were doing their own thing. They did whatever pleased them in their sight, most of them. And as a result of that, the land was cursed and there was famine and people had to move out. Very similar to many places in the world today. People migrating, the suffering of migration, being uprooted and going somewhere else. So you don't belong there. And they went. That was Elimelech, the father, and the two sons, and also Naomi. So they were there in a new country, obviously having to get used to it and having to struggle. But they established themselves. And for some time, things went really well. But then, sadly, the first disaster strike. The father died, Elimelech died. And so that was the first sense of real sorrow in this foreign land. But then the two sons, they got married to Moabite, people from Moab. And so there was this sort of like comfort, this support. But then after 10 years, another tragedy strikes and the two sons die. And Naomi is at the center of this tragedy, the mother of her two lads, her two boys, her two young men who had gone, and her suffering was acute. And she wasn't thinking particularly clearly because she's but she did realize that things were better at home right now. So they all turned back. All three of them turned back. That is the two daughters-in-law and also Naomi, the mother. So all they turned back to Israel because things seemed to be looking up. The famine had finished and there was food there. So let's go back, Naomi thought. But then she changed her mind and said, I'm going to go back on my own. There's no point you two girls coming with me. You're not going to find husbands there. You don't belong to that country. You're outsiders, and you're better off where you are. And that's where we hear that Naomi said, go back to your own country. But as you will notice, this wonderful, wonderful word where we see the first signs of the character of Ruth, Ruth clung on to Naomi. But Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. It's better for you. Common sense, go back. There's no point in you suffering with me. But Ruth clung to her. Now, I think clinging there is not the clinging of dependence. It's not the clinging of insecurity. It's the cling of love, and it's a cling of protection, and it's the cling of compassion. Those are the qualities that Ruth showed. Love and compassion and support. She wanted to protect this woman going through suffering. This woman she admired and respected so much. And so you see this suffering is at the center of this event. I'd like you to show, I'm going to show you some objects. This is the first object I'm going to show you. It comes from the River Wye. It's a perfectly round pebble. And you imagine the suffering, in a sense, suffering is a bit like water flushing over you, and sometimes you feel you're drowning. But sometimes suffering produces character quality, doesn't it? Sometimes suffering, the very things that cause us to feel like life is breaking up, actually smooth us off and make us flat, like this beautiful pebble. Now, when I used to go to the River Wye, I used to try to get a pebble across to the other side. So I'd go, I'm not going to do it now. Like that, no risk assessment. I used to go like that. And if I got it right, with a nice flat stone, you get to the other side. And what you see in Ruth is somebody who travels. She moves. She moves and she skips over suffering. And the very rivers that get in the way, she skips over them. And it's brilliant, this movement there is in this particular book, skipping through the stages like a pebble going over, a flat pebble going it's right to the other end. So that's the first picture. The second picture is more to do with what is at the heart of the character qualities, because I believe there are certain character qualities that are more important than others. Two, faith and love. Those both connect together. And when you read these verses about Ruth, from verse 16, you can see the way she describes things. She had deep faith and she had deep love. We've already spoken about the love, the compassion, the empathy she had towards her mother-in-law. But here we're talking about faith. So she said this, don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die. And where I find it hard to read these verses. And there I will be buried. May the Lord, and this is the bit that is so outstanding. I mean, from somebody who didn't know anything about, God before you met Naomi. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you from me. And there is something completely, I think, wonderful and outstanding about the faith that she shows. It's a bit like the faith of getting married. Here is a wedding ring, okay? A wedding ring, it's my wedding ring, okay? But when you get married, you agree to share everything, and you promise to God, and you also promise to your partner that you are going to go where they go. You're going to share everything with them, and it's a commitment, it's a promise, and it's a picture of faith. It's a picture of faith. And I believe that that's the quality of faith that Ruth was showing here, not just an attachment to Naomi, but an attachment to Naomi's God. And that's so vital and so very important. And that says quite a lot, I think, about Naomi and Elimelech and perhaps her husband, because she had grasped this truth with amazing depth and strength. It was so outstanding, this foreigner grasping so much in these years. But the quality of her faith was outstanding. And like a wedding ring, when you're making a commitment to share everything, it involves all of life. And I just want to say something about faith here, because faith can sometimes be seen as a very small thing, just to do with, like, I believe in that. I believe in such and such a person exists and such like. I guess I believe God. That is not Christian faith. That is just intellectually accepting something happens or something exists. No, faith is more than that. Faith is a heartfelt belief in the promises of God. But you know what? It's more even than that. It's actually entering into the promises of God and committing yourself, and your behavior, your life, what you live for is different. It doesn't mean to say that you earn it, but it does mean to say that you act upon it. And that's exactly what Ruth did. She moved from her own country with her own gods, as were, to the Lord, my Lord, the Lord of all. She believed. That was the quality of her faith. It was outstanding. And it involved her head, her thinking, her decisions, her choices, also her heart. She felt this overwhelming desire to love and show that love and express it. And also the will as well. Will means actually making decisions and doing stuff. And that's exactly what we find her doing straight away in the narrative of this particular story. So in chapter 2, we see something of the quality of action within Ruth. And I'm just going to read these verses because they speak volumes, don't they? Chapter 2, at the start of it, we didn't cover this in the reading. There was plenty in that reading. But this is where we find Ruth in Bethlehem, foreign soil, doing something. Now, Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. He's an important character. We'll come on to him a bit more later. And Ruth, the Moabite, said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor." So here we have Ruth. She's in a foreign country. She knows that she's an outsider, and other people know it. And some of the men in the fields that they were harvesting at the time would know it too. She was potentially in danger. But what did she do? Did she sit on her bottom and expect Naomi to work it out? No, she offered her services. She did something. She acted, and faith inspired that action. And the second image I have here is of a torch. This is a torch I use when I go down the bottom of the garden with Tilly and Lucy, our little dog, okay? I need this torch in the night because I need to avoid the slugs and also other things that happen from dogs. And I walk down the garden and I get my way there and back again. But with Ruth, it was really important that she had this brightness. She was switched on, she was bright, she knew which way to go, and it was really important. And what you notice is something marvelous. Put my things together. Something marvelous, and that is that as soon as she did that, certain things began to happen. You'll notice it says that so she entered the field and began to glean behind the harvesters, as it turned out. As it turned out. As it turned out. She was working in the field belonging to Boaz, this really important relative, who's the key to the deliverance, who was from the clan of Elimelech. And then just then, Boaz turned up. Two things, okay? You call them coincidences? I wonder if sometimes you have things that happen in your life as a Christian, or even before you become a Christian, that's remarkable that happens at just that time. We call them often God moments, but they happen. And Ruth, because she had the guts to go out into a dark place with a torch and start moving, as a result of that movement, God could do things and would do things. And there was a partnership between Ruth and her God working. Things were happening. And she was being led, as it were, to learn more about her future, and led, as it were, to move and to be guided by God in partnership with God. It was as a result of God's grace. It wasn't something she earned, but it was this fantastic partnership already beginning. And as a result of that action, Boaz, this important man, began to ask questions about her. And it's interesting that more of her qualities begin to emerge as a result of these questions. So in Ruth chapter 2, it says that Boaz asked the overseers of the harvesters, "Who does that young woman belong to?" The overseer replied. And the answer was, "She is the Moabite who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, 'Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters.' She came into the field and has remained to work steadily here from morning till now, except for a short rest in the shelter." So, like the light, the character of Ruth was beginning to shine out to other people too. Just like in Matthew's Gospel, it says, "Let your light shine before men, and they will give glory to God, Father in heaven." Her light was beginning to shine. Other people were beginning to see it, including people who could see the way she worked. She worked hard. She worked steadily. She didn't pace herself out. She did it steadily. And the way we work matters. The way we work matters. I used to work with somebody who said, "I plod with God. I plod with God. I plod with God." Even the boring bits of life, you've got to plod sometimes with God, and it's difficult sometimes, but she did. She plodded with God, and people noticed. And so there was a certain zip and energy and vitality about Ruth. And as a result of that, people were beginning to see through the ordinary things of life that she had a character, a strength. But there was also a beauty. She could have got big-headed. She could have thought, "Oh, I'm something. Now people are noticing me. Wow." It does go to people's heads. But not with Ruth. There was a certain gentleness and beauty about her. And we see that in the way that she responded to the compliments and the protection provided by Boaz. Because Boaz said, "Look, come to my field, be with my women, and I will protect you. You'll even have water. You'll be looked after." And this is what Ruth said afterwards. At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked him, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner?" That is not the words of somebody who's arrogant, big-headed, assuming things. It's the words of somebody who is humble and recognizes her own weakness. And she shows an appreciation for somebody else's generosity. Now, there are quite a few people who receive, but do not say thanks. But she received something really wonderful, and she said thank you, because she had her heart not just focused on herself, but recognizing the qualities of other people. And that's what we need to do, recognize the qualities of others as well. So as an application for us, we need to be thinking about how we shine out in the work that we do, in the ordinary things we do, in the ordinary moments, and through the suffering that we experience. Are we using those sufferings? Is God turning those sufferings into things that are positive? Are we being vital? Are we going out into those unknown places? I met a person recently who says he deliberately puts himself in difficult situations sometimes because he depends on God and he recognizing the need to go forward like that spinning pebble. So we find that she had that humility, but also she was obedient to her mother-in-law. And that obedience was to some instructions. Naomi was beginning to see God at work as well. And she realized that Boaz would be a good husband for Ruth, even though he was quite a bit older. But there's this thing going on that there could be a partnership. There's an idea in Israel about a kinsman redeemer. I'm not going to go into details, there's not enough time. But basically, this person could help an awful lot, given the responsibility to support, in this case, Ruth, the daughter of Naomi, to keep the family line going. And Naomi recognized this, and she told Ruth, I must find a home for you, so why not Boaz? So tonight, it was time for a special celebration about harvest. Boaz will be winnowing the barley, but then after that, he will be having a rest. He'll be lying down somewhere like everybody else, having had a few drinks, feeling a bit tipsy, quiet, and you're to go down. You're going to go down, and you are to go and uncover his feet and put it over you, which is a very daring thing to do for somebody from a foreign country with a man of standing and somebody who had no status whatsoever. But because she obeyed Naomi and recognized the situation, she did what she was told. But there's an interesting twist to this story. And I'm going to read these verses because I think they're amazing. Because she didn't just obey mindlessly, she used her own initiative. Okay, so this is what happened. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. This was Boaz, lying down, okay? He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. He was obviously surprised and startled. "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." That was incredibly brave and risky. Could have gone well wrong, but it didn't. It was bold and courageous. So this is Ruth, little Ruth, the foreigner, doing all these wonderful faith-filled things, showing courage, showing beauty and vitality. And as a result, and again, I can't go into details about this Kingsman Redeemer stuff, but as a result of that, amazing things happened. I'm sorry, I forgot the perfume. She showed beauty like perfume. Okay, I'm not going to open it. I'm not going to spray myself because I'll get into trouble. Okay, but that is Coco Chanel. Okay, a beautiful, distinctive aroma. And she had that, a beautiful aroma. But finally, what you'll find is that because of her faithfulness to God, because of her character, because of her faith, because of her, beauty, she did get married. And as a result of that, the joy spread. The joy spread. So at the end of the story, we find that she almost certainly was a joyful person. You wonder what I'm going to do with this day. She was a joyful person, but with joy, often joy spreads. Okay? Way! Okay. So that's the final one. So, and it does, and it did. So it spread. If you read these verses at the end, you'll find that it spread not just to Boaz and not just to Naomi, but to Naomi's friends. So it spread through the family and through the nation. But I tell you what, it spread a lot further. Why? Because she got married to Boaz. And if you read the genealogy, which is a posh word for this is the family list, you'll find that she's on it in Matthew's gospel. This nobody, this low status, wonderful person is on the list. Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of David, and on and on and on until we get to the Redeemer, the Savior, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. And it just goes to prove, doesn't it, this wonderful truth. And I'm going to leave you with this. Character, those quiet decisions we make, that faith we show in struggle sometimes, that perseverance when it's suffering and it's painful and it doesn't mean to make any sense at all. What the heck is going on in my life? And you keep on going and you change. And character changes history and eternity. Praise God.